Justin, are you going to record this morning? When we get to the communion part, I want you to turn it off. Okay. That's nobody else's business. Amen? Turn your Bibles to Genesis chapter 14. Now, there's people who say, why in the world are you going to Genesis to preach on communion? Well, I'm going to show you why. And you may not know this, but you need to know it. How many knows God has a plan?
Amen.
You know, you may not realize this. How many believe that we're getting close to the end?
Oh, yeah.
How many knows that Jesus is about to come back?
Hallelujah.
How many here believes in the rapture?
Amen.
Now listen now. When the church gets raptured at the end of the tribulation period, Jesus comes back. Right? And then he sets up his kingdom here on the earth. It's called the millennial reign of Christ. It lasts 1,000 years. And at the end of that, more happens. But people may not, and I want to start putting numbers out, but there are around 300 scriptures, prophecies, or more that talk about what happens after Jesus comes back the second time. You don't hear about those. Let's talk about all the things that's going to happen during the millennial reign and going on into eternity. So there's a lot ahead but right now Jesus said that Jerusalem will be trodden underfoot until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled, and that's where we're at. We're at the end of the age of the Gentiles, or the end of the church age. That being the case, you know, Jesus said when this thing starts winding up, you're going to find out that things are going to be in a state of escalation. And he said, woe unto the inhabitants of the earth, because the devil has come down having great wrath, because he knows he has but a little time.
Yeah.
How many knows that? How many knew that scripture was in the Bible?
Amen.
Now, I'm saying that to let you understand something. In this day we're living in, with all of the deception going out there, and listen, and all of the professing Christianity and professing churches that are crawfishing and going backwards and backing up on this and backing off of this doctrine and that doctrine and chickening out from their stand concerning the gospel. You need to know who you are, what you believe in, and where you stand in this hour. Amen? And you need to understand why. Now watch this. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him, talking about Abram, who later became Abraham. His name was Abram. He made a covenant with God, and God changed his name to Abraham, which means father of nations, or father of a multitude. But he wasn't Abraham yet. He was Abram. But these kings had taken his nephew captive, and Abraham got his people together, and they went out and got him back. And they were returning from the victory over these kings, and he was coming back, and they coming back to them, and they had all the spoils from the battle. How many was back in those days when they would win the battle, all the spoils belonged to the ones who won the battle? Right? Now he's coming back with that, with all those spoils, and the king of Sodom went out to meet him. You see, the king of Sodom was the one who had, these kings came in and took all their people, their men captive and everything, and basically pillaged them and went out. And Abraham heard about it, and they got his nephew and said, no. And he went out and said, I'm going to get it back, and he did. And get him back. And now he's returning from that. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of that guy, of the kings. I'll have Tommy pronounce that for me.
Chad.
I got glasses on.
He went out and he beat Chad.
That'll work.
He beat Chad.
Yeah, he beat Chad, yeah. which is of the king's dale. Keep going. And Melchizedek, the king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine. Everybody say bread and wine.
Bread and wine.
And he was the priest of the Most High God. Now, if you'll look in the book of Hebrews, I think it's chapter 6, in the New Testament, Paul starts saying, consider how great this man was, because he's mentioned right here in this part right here, and he's not mentioned anywhere else in the Bible. And in the book of Hebrews, it talks about him. Well, he's mentioned in Psalms. His name is mentioned once, but you don't hear no more about him. You don't hear anything about him before or after. And if you look at Hebrews, there's a reason why. It's because he is a type. The Bible says in Hebrews 6, it says he was without beginning and without end, without father, without mother. He has there's no genealogy. There's no ancestry. There's nothing about him except that he's just there, and that he brought forth bread and wine, and that he was priest of the Most High God. It's because he was a type of Jesus Christ. Remember now, Abraham is the father of the faith, of the righteousness which is of faith, which is us. Later on, the law came. Then they had the Levitical priesthood. But this was 430 years before that. Is everybody with me?
Yes.
Next verse. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. Keep going. And blessed be the Most High God, which has delivered thine enemies into thy hand, and he gave him tithes of all.